Most people are familiar with one of the most popular cryptids today, the Mothman. This creature, described as a massive humanoid with glowing red eyes, was spotted by many residents in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1966 and 1967. Then later, on December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge would collapse in rush hour traffic, killing 46 people, and soon this catastrophe would forever be linked with the Mothman. While many know this story, less people are familiar with the history and tragedy of Point Pleasant and a Native American curse that some say is responsible for all the devastation that has came to the area and the surrounding areas. Besides the Silver Bridge collapse, in 1880, a massive fire would destroy a large section of the city, and shortly after the Silver Bridge collapse in 1967, several aircraft crashed in the area in 1968 and 1970, killing more than 100 passengers. In 1976, there was an explosion at the county jail, and in 1978, a freight train carrying chemicals derailed, spilling toxic materials in the area and poisoning the wells. Without question, the area has experienced a disproportional share of disasters. As for the Mothman himself, there's various theories as to what this entity is. Some believe it is a creature that comes down from outer space. Others think it is an evil entity or demon that ascended from the depths of hell. It seems to bring death with it, and other than Point Pleasant, the creature has been spotted at other areas of the world when catastrophe strikes. Perhaps most notably was the sightings at Chernobyl nuclear power plant around the meltdown. Reports of the Mothman have come in from across the world, perhaps most recently in Chicago in 2019. While there are various theories as to what this being is, we will explore today the chief Cornstalk curse and perhaps whether this curse is responsible for this being. Still, to understand this, we must go back to the beginning and understand this curse. In the 1770s, American frontiersmen were battling against the Native Americans and attempting to push west. As American settlers moved to the land around the Ohio River, now West Virginia, they encountered strong resistance from Indian tribes that had banded together. They were led by a man named Chief Cornstalk. In 1774, a battle occurred between both sides. As Chief Cornstalk knew he couldn't defeat the heavily armed force, he decided to call for peace. Several years later, when the American Revolution was occurring, the British convinced several tribes to abandon Chief Cornstalk and join them to fight the Americans. Chief Cornstalk went to the American fort to discuss the situation, but was taken hostage at the fort. His son would arrive days later and was taken hostage as well. Initially, things were okay, as they were treated very well while in captivity. But soon, some American soldiers went out to hunt and were ambushed and killed by several Indians. After this, order broke down at the fort, and an enraged group of soldiers stormed in the Chief Cornstalk in his son's quarters. The soldiers would then break the truce that was agreed upon and brutally kill Cornstalk's son right in front of him. Cornstalk would then be next, and as he lay dying, he stated his mighty curse. According to legend, he said, "I came to this fort as your friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my young son. For this, may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon this land. May it be blighted by nature. May it be blighted in its hopes." Cornstalk was given a proper burial, but his mistreatment would continue. His body was dug up twice and moved so new buildings could be erected. The area of Point Pleasant would then build statues to the men who defeated Cornstalk in battle. In a strange omen, the monument was struck by lightning in its unveiling ceremony in 1909, and then struck again in 1921. The curse of Chief Cornstalk and the disasters surrounding the area raised quite a bit of questions. For one, is there a connection between the curse and the Mothman sightings that occurred in the area in the late 1960s? It could be the case the curse opened some type of portal or thinned the boundaries between our world and the spirit world. Another question concerns whether the being has been attracted to the cursed land. It appears the Mothman follows death or catastrophe, or possibly it brings it. It should be noted that none of the other disasters in Point Pleasant appear to have a direct connection with the Mothman. It could be the case, though, that Mothman was involved and wasn't seen, or the witnesses kept it to themselves. While some say Mothman appears to have a definitive start date, being Point Pleasant in 1966, others are not so sure, as stories of this being have been told secondhand for centuries. Today, the town of Point Pleasant and many have embraced the creature with a massive statue of Mothman in the town and a Mothman festival with around 15 to 20,000 people attending every year. Despite this, some think the area could be due for another disaster and perhaps more sightings of the Mothman.